Ayan, once again, good morning everyone and happy Saturday. Ayan, we would like to thank each one of you for joining us today as we celebrate our foundation anniversary, the UP College of Education. And before we start, we only have few reminders. First, please turn off your camera and mute your speaker or microphone during our speaker's presentation. This is to avoid any distraction. But don't worry po, later after our speakers talk, we will have a Q&A portion and you can post your questions in the Q&A box and we will address them at the right time. And please ask your questions po concisely and avoid lengthy introductions or opinions. Avoid using the chat box for socialization while the presentation is in progress so that others will not be distracted. Ulitin ko po ang ating pong questions, pwede po natin ilagay sa chat box. Ayun lamang po. At huli pong paalala, mamaya po ay magkakaroon po tayo ng evaluation form after po ng webinar na ito. Isasend po namin ng link sa chat box din po at pwede pong pakisagutan ito para po makatanggap din po tayo ng e-certificate. At pahabol po pala, pwede po pala ang i-request namin, ang gamitin po nating name sa Zoom ay ang ginamit po nating name sa registration form. Ayan, para ma-check din po namin. Yun lamang po. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Do you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes po.
Good morning po. Ako po si Teacher Lutze. Kasama ko po si Teacher Mikey na ang speaker natin this morning. Welcome po sa ating webinar for this morning. Kami po ay galing sa College of Education, Special Education Area ng UP Diliman. Kasama din po namin dito ang aming mga very reliable po na mga new graduates for this SEM. Yung dalawang Christine po namin, si Christine, si Teacher Christine at si Teacher CJ. So I'm also tasked to give the opening remarks or the welcome remarks this morning. Pero ayoko pong patagalin dahil gustong-gusto ko na pong i-introduce sa inyo ang ating speaker at para po mapakinggan natin siya at para matuto po tayo this morning. Okay, so actually po itong webinar na ito ay offering po or offering talaga or contribution or parang gift po ng aming area, ng special education area para po sa, sorry po, maliit masyado yung ano tawag dito, yung slide or yung poster, kaya I don't know kung pang ilan na po na anniversary ng UP College of Education. Pang ilan na ba yan, Teach? Hindi ko mabasa kasi.
103rd.
103rd. Okay, so
Oo.
103rd na namin, lampas na kami ng centennial. Ng UP College of Education yon. So for this particular weekend, naatasan po kami na ang aming area or special education area na magbigay po ng isang webinar para po makatulong sa ating mga special education teachers. And of course, lahat po ng teachers, no? Because ang aming pong advocacy sa special education ay inclusion also, no? So gusto namin as much as possible, lahat po tayo, lahat ng teachers, even parents, and all other stakeholders po, mga support persons who are actually working and living with children with special needs or children with disabilities, ay gusto po naming maka-reach out at makatulong po, makapagbigay ng kahit konti lang po ng maaari naming maitulong. So masayang-masaya po kami dahil sa pre-registration ay nakita po namin about 300 at in a matter of a few hours lang po napuno po yung slots. Maraming salamat po sa lahat po sa inyo ng nag-signify and at the same time yung talagang nandito ngayon para umattend po ng webinar. I am so sure po na matututo tayo this morning, lalo na po at napakagaling po ng kasamahan ko, si Teacher Mikey, na magtuturo sa atin this morning. So usually we say, we don't just speak, we teach, no? Lalo na si Teacher Mikey. Pag nag-handle siya ng webinars, laging sinasabi niya, webinars and seminars, laging sinasabi niya na let's learn, no? Because I want to teach, no? Instead of just saying that she wants to speak to all of us. So welcome po. Sana po ay maging pleasant, maging happy, and maging fruitful po ang ating umaga by way of this webinar. And ako na rin ba yung next? Pasensya na po, hindi po lahat ng mga professors sa special education area ay makakasama this morning kasi yung iba po sa amin may mga trabaho, ay may mga turo, may classes po kasi mid-year din po ngayon sa UP. Okay, so welcome everybody. That's my opening remarks. Shall we move to the next? Teachers CJ and Teacher Christine, ano ba yung next?
Yes, po,
mag-i-introduce na rin ako.
Teach. Thank you.
All right. So I'll move along. Ang next po natin, I'd like to take this opportunity to, because I am very honored to be able to introduce to you this morning our speaker/teacher. She is an assistant professor of the special education area of the UP College of Education, and she earned her Bachelor of Science in Biological Sciences at the UP Manila and her master's degree in special education here in also in UP Diliman. She is a candidate right now for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Education, major in special education. She's actually finishing her dissertation, and we are hoping that she will do so by the next SEM, right, Mike?
Right.
Okay, so she'd be the latest addition to the PhD holders of our area when she finishes by next SEM. So Professor Tantengco is actively involved in research on inclusive education, and she's very interested in the education of gifted learners. She has been handling our courses actually in gifted education, especially those gifted learners who are marginalized, no? For those in the marginalized sector. She has also presented several papers in local and international conferences. And also she works very closely with the Department of Education, Bureau of Learning Delivery Student Inclusion Division, the National Council on Disability Affairs, NCDA, and other non-government organizations as she works as the consultant and resource also on special education, inclusive education, and gifted education. So hindi ko na po papatagalin. I am honored and pleased to present to you our speaker teacher this morning, Professor and almost Doctor Myra Trinidad Tantengco. We call her lovingly as Teacher Mikey.
Okay, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. I'm very glad to be here today to share with you a very important topic. So from the special education area of the College of Education, welcome po to the webinar. Let me just share my slides. All right. Okay. So ang topic po natin ngayon ay isang mahalagang topic. No? It's entitled Responding to Learner Diversity by Differentiating Instruction. Um, ang ating objectives po ng webinar na ito is for you to be able to explain in your own words what differentiated instruction is. Also, you should be able to explain the rationale of differentiating instruction for students in our regular classroom, no? Especially kung mayroon pong students with special needs doon. And finally, for you to be able to identify areas that need to be differentiated and how to accomplish them. All right. Ito po yung mga references na ginamit ko sa paghanda ng talk ngayon. I have already posted them in the chat box so that you can access them for future studies. No? So maganda po yung libro ni Conklin and Sorrell. Sorry, wala po akong e-copy niyan, but Hickox and Tomlinson ma-access nyo po sa internet. Also, you can go to the Iris Center. Ito pong site na to ay napakaraming resources on differentiated instruction. So after the seminar po, please go there and learn on your own. All right. So let's begin. Sa Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers po, nakapaloob ang halaga ng quality ang characteristics ng quality teachers, no? At ayon sa PPST, quality teachers are able to establish learning environments that are responsive to learner diversity. So, bago po lahat, kailangan maintindihan natin na talagang ang mga estudyante natin sa ating mga classrooms ay napaka-diverse. Later, I'll open the chat box for you to share kung paano napaka-diverse ang ating classrooms, no? But to respond to learner diversity, napakahalaga po na alam natin ang kanilang characteristics and experiences according to PPST. And when we know their diverse characteristics, the way to respect those characteristics and experiences is by using that information in planning and designing the learning activities that we provide them. No? Napakahalaga ng ating teaching practices ay differentiated so that we can address to all of their needs and so that everyone in our classroom could experience academic and social success, no? And be successful citizens in the future. All right. Now, sa ating chat box, nais ko po na sumagot po kayo sa katanungang ito. Maikling sagot lamang po. How are your students different from each other? Sige po. I'll give you mga 2 minutes to put your answers in the chat box. Okay, sa chat box po, magbigay po tayo ng kasagutan sa katanungang ito. How are your students different from each other? Oh, sabi, they are different in interests, in abilities, in hobbies, personality, skills. Wow, ang bilis ng pagpasok ng mga sagot, no? They have different behaviors and skills according to Ma'am Gladys. They have different learning styles, skills, and personalities according to Miss Ariane. um, ano pa, they have different multiple intelligences. Great. No? Ano pa ba? Socioeconomic backgrounds. Yes, nagkakaiba-iba po sila sa ating classrooms. Lalo na po ngayon na mayroong pandemic at naapektuhan po ang kabuhayan ng mga pamilya. So they have different perceptions, different levels of ability, no? Iba't iba ang socioeconomic status, even the culture, the home environment, and the behaviors, and all of these things. Maraming salamat po. Even the religion, no? All of these things make each student in our classroom very unique, no? Kaya nga po, hindi natin masasabi na mayroong stereotypical, say, grade 4 student, no? Wala tayong masasabing ano ba talaga ang typical grade 9 student. Wala tayo talagang masabi dahil iba-iba ang characteristics ng ating mga estudyante. So salamat po sa inyong mga sagot doon sa chat box. Magpapatuloy na po tayo um, ng ating presentation. Okay. Now, pag ganyan po ka-diverse ang ating mga estudyante, hindi po naiiwasan na ang mga teachers ay sumasakit ang ulo. No? Paano ko ba i-address ang mga iba't ibang needs ng mga batang ito? Paano ko i-address ang iba't ibang behaviors, iba't ibang levels of understanding, levels of even yung reading, no? Pero ang masasabi ko po ay we need to keep calm and learn how to differentiate instruction. Kaya po meron tayo niyan. All right. Si Carol Ann Tomlinson defined differentiating instruction as attending to the learning needs of a particular student or small group of students rather than teaching in a class as though all individuals in it are basically alike, no? So mayroon po akong i-emphasize dito. Oops, gumagalaw siya ng mag-isa. All right. Nais ko pong i-emphasize na unang-una, napakahalaga po na alam natin kilala natin ang ating mga estudyante because we cannot attend to their learning needs if we don't know what their learning needs are. Also, the definition of Tomlinson tells us that when you have a diverse group of students in the class, providing a one-size-fits-all curriculum will not work for everyone. Not everyone is going to learn if we use a one-size-fits-all curriculum. Diane Hickox also defined differentiating instruction as changing the pace, level, or the kind of instruction you provide in response to individual learners' needs, styles, or interests. No, so sa definition na to, I'd like to you to take note that again, katulad ni Tomlinson, pinapakita ni Diane Hickox na napakahalaga na naiintindihan natin ang mga learning needs, styles, and interests ng ating mga estudyante because yung mga learning needs na yan and styles and interests ang magiging basihan ng ating pag-differentiate ng ating instruction. All right, let's continue. Continue. All right. So, according to Hickox, there are, three simple steps in differentiating our instruction. The first is by getting to know our students' characteristics. Later, titingnan natin ano-ano bang mga characteristics ng mga estudyante ang kailangan kong maintindihan. All right. So aside from getting to know our students' characteristics, the next thing for us to do is to analyze the degree of challenge and variety in our current instructional plans. So on one hand, you have the characteristics of your students. On the other hand, you have your lesson plan. At ipagtatapat niyo po sila at i-analyze niyo yung lesson plan. How challenging is the lesson plan for the different learners in the classroom? Mayroon ba tayong napo-provide na variety of learning activities para ang lahat ay makapag-participate at lahat ay matuto? No? So we need to analyze the lesson plans. After analyzing the lesson plans,
Okay, we're very sorry po. Mukhang nawalan ng signal si Teacher Mighty. We'll wait for her in a bit. I'm sure inaayos na po niya and she has been messaged already. Okay. Meanwhile, while we're waiting, siguro maganda teachers CJ and Christine, pwede na ba silang magsulat ng questions nila sa chat box?
Yes po, pwede na po kayo kung may questions po kayo so far. Oh, there you are, Teacher Mike.
Yeah, Teacher Mike is here already. Go ahead. Mike's muted ka.
nawala ba ako kanina?
Yes.
Yes po, Teach.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry
Okay po,
about
it's
that.
okay. The second bullet po, Teach.
Sa second bullet,
Yes po.
okay. Sandali ha, let me share the screen again. Daldal pala ako ng daldal. Wala na akong kausap. All right. So after getting to know your students, we need to analyze the degree of challenge and variety in our current instructional plans. Maaaring yung lesson plan po ay ginamit natin last year, 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. No? Pero itatapat po natin yan sa characteristics ng ating mga estudyante at i-analyze, ito bang lesson plan na hinanda ko 5 years or even last year, is it still relevant and does it fit the students that
Teacher Mighty, you're frozen again. Is it me or is it Teacher Mighty?
Yes po, Teach. Nag-pros po si Teacher Mikey.
Oo, nag-freeze na naman. Okay, again, while we're waiting for her, pwede na po tayong mag-type in sa chat box ng ating mga question. Okay, we will get back to the questions. We will choose the very relevant ones and also we will try our best no na ipagsama yung mga medyo magkakaparehong questions so that we will be able to answer more questions. Okay, so iti-take note yan ng ating mga kasamang teachers and during the question and answer portion later on after Teacher Mikey's talk, we will try to answer them. Okay, there are Ayan, si Teacher Mikey ulit. Teach, go ahead. You're on mute ka, Teach, again
Yes.
ah.
Ito po ang challenge ng online learning. Na-experience po natin ngayon. Hindi po ito pinaplano. Alright. So, let me share my slides again. There. Okay. So, if it happens again, then let us just be patient. Ano po? Dahil hindi po yan uh, tinatangka kung ang nais po namin ay maging smooth ang flow. So, kung mahalaga po, balik tayo, kung mahalaga na nakikilala natin ang ating mga estudyante, what do we need to know about them? So, there are three things according to um, Tomlinson, Tomlinson or Hickox. There are three things that we need to examine. The first one is the readiness level of our students, no? Gaano ba kahanda ang ating mga estudyante sa pagharap sa kanilang mga pag-aaralan itong school year na to? It's very important that we know this because according to the National Research Council, students make meaning out of what is taught in the classroom based on their prior understanding, their learning styles, attitudes, and beliefs. So punta ho tayo dun sa prior understanding. Di ho ba napakahalaga na pag tayo ay magtuturo, ay mayroong silang prerequisite knowledge skills. Dapat na nasa kanila na yung pundasyon para pag tayo ay nagturo ng bagong information and skills, ay makakagawa na tayo ng connection and they will just move on to higher levels of learning, no? Parang kunyari, ang example po niyan, for you math teachers who are in attendance, pag nagturo tayo ng multiplying two-digit numbers with a one-digit number with regrouping, no? May mga prerequisite knowledge po at understanding na kailangan ay dala-dala ng mga estudyante. Dapat alam nila yung mga place values, alam nila yung yung multiples, 'di ba? Merong multiplication families 'yan. Tapos dapat alam nila yung ones and tens. And syempre, bago yung with regrouping, dapat na-master nila yung multiplication of two-digit numbers with one-digit number without regrouping. No? So, maraming kailangan na prior understanding ang mga bata para ito ang magiging pundasyon ng ating bagong ituturo. If we do not know the readiness levels of our students, para po tayong mga nagtuturo ng tayo mismo ay bulag. Sige, turo lang ng turo, pero hindi natin nakikita kung natututo ba yung mga bata, nahihirapan ba, or stressed out na, or if they're really learning. Okay. Now, before I change the slide, may nilagay po ako dito. Readiness levels vary across content areas and subjects. No, it doesn't mean po na kung mababa ang readiness level ng isang estudyante, let's say sa math, ay mababa na rin siya sa English, mababa na rin siya sa araling panlipunan. Not necessarily, no? Maaaring magaling siya dito, pero dito ay medyo needs help siya. Or even in mathematics lang, there may be times when they are good in certain topics but would need your assistance in other topics. And so you need to to really identify the readiness levels of your students, no? Wag po natin silang ipipigeonhole na ano yan, mahina yan, no? Dahil hindi po totoo yan. All right, next slide. According to Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, students need to be pushed just a little beyond their independence level for real learning to take place, no? Just a little beyond, no? Hindi po yung kung ito yung skill level nila, ay biglang magtuturo tayo ng napakataas. Just a little beyond po, so that we can challenge them, no? Kasi kung walang challenge po, let's say hindi natin alam kung ano yung skills level nila. Tapos nagbigay tayo ng napakadaling lesson. Kunyari, gifted sila, no? And whatever it is we're teaching now, alam na nila yan 2 years ago. So ano mangyayari? There's no challenge for them, and it is like very likely that our students would not be interested in the lesson. They would be bored, and there would even be an absence of excitement, no, in the classroom. And many teachers ask me, bakit ba minsan hindi interesado ang mga bata sa pag-aaral? Could this be the reason? Is it possible that we are not challenging them enough? No? Pag kunyari naman, ito ang skill level ng bata, pero napakataas ng challenge na binibigay natin, ang mangyayari naman po sa bata, magwo-worry na siya and magiging anxious na about his learning. And ang nangyayari po, kalimitan, pag hindi po na-address yung worry and anxiety, nag-freeze po yung mga bata at ayaw na nilang participate in the lesson kasi stressed out na sila, no? I remember when I was a little girl in grade 1, I was highly challenged by mathematics, no? And so pag math na, all of a sudden nagkakaroon ng headache at grade 1, no? And ang ginagawa ko noon, pumupunta ako sa clinic. And then humihiga ako doon on the pretense that may headache ako. And then, tsempohan ko lang kung mga after 45 minutes, wala na ang headache ko, babalik na ako kasi science na or English and I'm very interested in those subjects. No? So ganun po ang nangyayari sa ating mga estudyante. But if we follow what Csikszentmihalyi shared with us, that we just need to push them a little beyond their independence level, a little beyond their skills level. So kung andito po yung skill nila at ang challenge ay just above that, then naa-arouse po ang interest ng ating mga estudyante and they can flow. Kumbaga, they can flow with learning, no? So, yan kaya po mahalaga na ating inaalam kung ano ba ang kanilang readiness level, no? So we can adjust the lesson for those who are medyo delayed, and yung mga advanced naman ay hindi sila mabore sa ating classroom. Okay, so here are some questions that we need to ask. Do my students have the prerequisite knowledge and skills on which I can build the new information and know-how that I want to impart? Nasa kanila na ba yon? Kung wala, then you need to adjust. While the others are learning what they need to learn today, and siguro yung iba ay mas advanced pa. The students who do not have the prerequisite knowledge, we can group them together. While the others are learning, tayo naman ay nandun, making sure that naiintindihan nila yung prior knowledge and skills na kailangan to learn in our classroom, no? Another question. does the learning experience that we are preparing match our learner skills and understanding of the topic? So that's related to the first question. Now, marami po sa inyo ang nagtanong, paano ba ang differentiated instruction sa online learning? So I have some questions here on readiness of our students. Okay, eto. Do our students with disabilities have assistive technology for support? Kung sila po ay mag-online learning, meron bang assistive technology? And kung sa pangkalahatan naman po, everyone in the classroom, do the students have the technology and the know-how to participate and learn online? Kasi kung hindi po sila marunong, ay paano po natin ma-expect na magpa-participate sila? So what are some of the skills that they need to do? Ay naku, napakasimple po yung how to turn on the computer, no? Or how to use the mouse. Or siguro mas advanced, do they know how to access materials that are emailed to them? Do they know how to save those materials? Kung PDF, do they know how to make annotations at the sides of the PDFs? No, so merong mga skills na kailangan para sila ay mag-succeed in online learning. No, babalik ako doon sa assistive technology. Isa pong assistive technology ay text to speech. There are some students who may have reading difficulties or who may have visual impairments, who may not be able to read the the materials that you are providing them online. So, alamin natin, meron ba silang text-to-speech technology? Meron pong nakukuha ng libre online, no? And we can encourage them to get that para yung text ay pakikinggan na lamang nila. All right. So yan. Do they have the proper attitude that would help them succeed in online learning? Alam po natin na online learning is not easy. You as teachers know that it's not easy. And it's not easy for students also. You know why? Mayroong kailangan degree of self-discipline. Mayroong kailangan degree of, ano ba to? Of knowing how to study on your own. So kailangan may internal intrinsic motivation yan na kahit hindi nila nakikita si teacher, kahit walang classmates, ay sila ay mag-aaral ng material asynchronously. Alright? So, yung mga attitudes ay napakahalaga. No? So, we check those also. Another set of characteristics that we need to look at are our students' learning styles. Because as Strong, Silver, and Perini said, everyone learns in different ways. And there is no one learning style that will work for everyone. So we need to learn to find out how do you learn best. No? Mamaya may ipapakita ako sa kanya, sa inyo. No? So if may alam natin yung learning style, then ang mangyayari niyan ay malalaman din natin if the topic or the learning activity sparks excitement among the learners, no? Kung because our topic or our learning activity considers their learning styles. So let's look at the different learning styles that we know. According to Fleming and Mills, mayroong VARC learning modalities. May mga students who learn visually and they can assimilate information better through visually. No? So for these learners, napakahalaga that pag tayo nagtuturo, mayroong mga visual aids, may mga diagrams, may mga mind map, may mga ano pa, concept map na ginagamit tayo, mga charts, para ma-explain yung para mas maintindihan nila yung ating itinuturo. Students who learn auditorily would they would benefit from lectures, no? Or kung meron silang pakikinggang e-book, no? Gusto nila 'yan. Or even yung mnemonics, gusto nila yung nakakapakinig ng mga mnemonics. Now, there are students who learn best by reading and writing. I learn that way. I read and then I take down notes, no? So, napakahalaga na mayroon akong reading materials. I learn better that way, no? And then there are students who learn kinesthetically. They like to move around, no? Gusto nila yung may hands-on, yung may mga manipulatives, yung may kinakalikot. That's how they learn best. So those are the VARC learning modalities. But those are not everything. Mayroon pa tayong ibang learning preferences na ating mga estudyante. For instance, there are students who learn best ng quiet lang. But there are those who learn best na mayroong background music sa, may background music na mahina lamang. There are students who can work in the dark. Ang ilaw lamang ay yung laptop nila. But there are students who prefer light. No? Probably because their eyes need more light. No? May mga estudyante who would learn best through uninterrupted study. For 4 hours, nakaupo lang yan at nag-aaral. But there are some students who would prefer intermittent breaks. No? So pag kayo nag-online class, kailangan for students such as them, you need to give 5-minute breaks, no, for them to go somewhere. Intake or no take. Ibig sabihin, may mga estudyante na they learn best while chewing, while eating, while drinking. Yung iba naman, ayaw nila na may kinakain, focus lamang. No? And then there's a specific time of day. No? Some learners learn better, they work better in the morning. No? From say 7:30 to 11:30, no? Pero mayroon namang iba, because they wake up very late in the morning, they prefer to study in the afternoon. So yung mga yon ay ating kinokonsidera din, ano? All right. Next slide. The third set and the last set of characteristics we need to look at are our students' interests. No? Ano ba ang interest nila? One question you could ask is this. Kung mayroon kang gustong ma-meet na famous person, sino ito? Or what kind of music do you listen to? BTS ba? Or Freddie Aguilar? Oh my goodness, why Freddie? No? Anyway, kanya-kanya silang interest, di ba? Rock and roll, no? So, bakit? According to Piaget, when students have opportunities to study their interests, their motivation for learning increases, no? Mas interesado ang ating estudyante na mag-aral kung ang interest nila ay kinukonsidera, no? For instance, pag magbibigay tayo ng project, usually you will notice that students who are kinesthetic, no, who are gifted kinesthetically, pag nagsabi ka na, choose your uh, mag-isip kayo ng ng project. Those who are interested in kinesthetics and music would want to compose music and even dance to it, diba? That becomes their final output. May mga estudyante naman na mahilig sa poetry. And so, pag nagbigay kayo ng choice na, oh, you can express your learning through poetry, ay, nako, they will be very happy to do that. Alright? Mahalaga yung kinokonsidera natin ang kanilang interests because na pupukaw natin yung kanilang intrinsic motivation. It is the drive to engage in learning and challenging activities for personal enjoyment, satisfaction, and reward. Pag napukaw natin or na ano ba ang term dyan? Pag na-tap natin yung intrinsic motivation ng ating estudyante, you don't have to force them. You don't have to force them to research because they're interested in it at sila na mismo ang maghahanap ng materials. No? At kahit gaano kahirap yun or challenging ang isang activity, or complicated ang isang activity, they will want to do it because of the joy, of the satisfaction, and the reward, the personal reward that they feel when they do something that they love. No? So when we consider the interest of our students, um, um, magiging madali na po yung effort nila and yung pag-persist nila sa mga gawain na challenging or complicated. Okay? Let's go on to the next. So what do we differentiate? No? Ito po. Ang ating dinidifferentiate ay unang-una, we differentiate content. So, again, babalik tayo doon sa readiness level nila. What do they already know? And what do they need to learn? You know, I know there's a curriculum. The K-12 curriculum is there. And it suggests na dapat ito ang pinag-aaralan ng mga estudyante sa grade level na yan. Pero ang katanungan ay ito, if the thing that they need to learn now is not accessible because they don't the prior knowledge for that is still shaky, then you need to strengthen the prior knowledge and the skills first before they can move on to to the to the lesson that they need to learn. Okay? So, ang katanungan, ano ba ang kailangan nilang matutunan ngayon? Kung hindi ito muna, baka pwede ito muna to strengthen it and then they can go to what they really need to learn. And another question is, how will they access the information? Online ba? Hard copy ba? No? So these are things that you need to ask. Now, like I said earlier, there are some students na ang kailangan muna ay mag-concentrate muna sa the most relevant, essential concepts, processes, and skills. Kung ano muna yung mahalaga na kanilang ma-acquire. But there are some students who are advanced and who would appreciate it if you could add more depth and complexity into the lesson plan. All right? We can also give them choices about the topics to explore in greater depth based on their interests. No? For example, naisip ko lang to ngayon lang. Mahilig magluto ang ilang estudyante natin. At ang pinag-aaralan ay yung panahon ng katipunan, you know, yung revolusyon dito the panahon ng revolusyon. Alam nyo ba na nagkaroon ng Malolos Convention? Alam nyo ba na mayroong ah, menu na hinanda para sa Malolos Convention? Ano kaya ito? So for students who want to cook, it would be interesting to find out ano ba yung mga recipe ng mga pagkain na hinanda noong Malolos Convention. Alam ko may video niyan eh. Okay. No? And then we can provide basic and advanced resources to complement students' current levels of understanding. So, mayroon silang reading material, pero what if the student, yung kanyang reading skills are not yet at par with the other students? Then the reading material has to be simplified. Okay? So, ayan, varying readability levels of the reading materials, or some students may not be able to read it well because, let's say, they have dyslexia. And so it would be good if we could have the material on tape, no? Or present ideas through auditory or visual means. No? So kung kunyari blind ang estudyante or may visual impairment, napakahalaga na yung idea ay naririnig niya. Or kung ang estudyante naman ay may hearing impairment, then it would be important that whatever the student needs to learn has to be presented in sign language. All right? So meeting with another content is meeting with small groups to reteach an idea or skills to struggling learners, or to extend the thinking or skills of advanced learners. So that's how you differentiate by content. All right, so I'm running late. The next thing we need to do is another thing that we can differentiate is the process. No? So babalik tayo. How do my students learn best? No? Are they kinesthetic? Do they learn best through group work? No, there might be some who would learn better just by himself, sitting quietly. And so we need to provide activities for these learners. No? And what activities can help them make sense of or master the content? Mayroon ba tayong activity for them to master the content? All right, so let me give you some examples, no? Okay, let's go to this. No, we can add greater complexity and abstractness to um, or simplifying the task. No? So kung may task na pinagagawa, for some students, advanced students, mas complex, mas abstract. No? But for those who are performing below par, maybe we need to simplify the task. They're learning the same thing. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we will change the subject altogether. No, they're learning the same thing. But yung isa, yung task nila, mas complex. Yung isa, mas sinimplify natin. All right, we can engage students in critical and creative thinking, letting them write creatively, or giving them, in one of my classes, pinagawa ko sila ng tula, no? Using a pattern, a poem about something that was significant to them, no? But may ginamit silang style of poetry. So, kakaiba, di ba? Explicit modeling and step-by-step guide to make connections for students who may have difficulty uh, acquiring the knowledge and the skills. So while the others are learning on their own or in groups, no? Ito naman may grupo ka na kung saan nagse-step by step ka. They're learning independently, but you're you're providing explicit modeling for another group of students. All right. We can provide cooperative learning activities. I don't know if some of you are using this already, the think, pair, and share approach. No, so when you're learning, when the class is discussing something, you can throw a question, and then individually mag-iisip sila. You know, ano ba ang sagot nila sa katanungan yan? And the question that you ask is not a yes or no answered question. No, you must open-ended. No, open-ended siya. No, and then so mag-iisip siya. Now, after giving them time to think about their answer, then they form a pair. No, hahanap sila ng partner, and the two students share their ideas with each other. And then, pag napag-usapan na sila, the last part would be sharing their ideas with others. That means pwede silang mag-share sa classroom na, sa harapan ng classroom. No? So, this is a good activity for students who are shy kasi nakaka-practice muna sila ng 2 by 2. And then later on, when they gain the confidence, they can share in front of the classroom. And this is also something you can do online, no? So online, maybe asynchronously, sinasagot ng estudyante yung katanungan mo, yung prompt mo. And then, asynchronously, it doesn't have to be in the class, may kapartner siya na silang dalawa lang nag-chat, no? And discussing it. And then, when you meet them na, synchronously, that's the time that you're going to give them the opportunity to share what they have learned to the whole class. So that's think, pair, and share. Another is jigsaw. No, I'm not sure if you are already using it, but briefly, let me tell you how this is done. Kunyari sa online, may pag-aaralan kayong isang topic, no? You can form 4 groups, as in this case, my 4 groups. Group A studies one topic. Group B studies another topic. So there are 4 topics, and each topic is assigned to a separate group. So they can do that synchronously on their own, and then they can meet as a group without the rest of the class. No? So pag napag-usapan na nila yung topic na yon, they agree on what's important. When you meet in class, then you can create breakout rooms where each room has one member of each of the expert groups, and then they teach one another what they have learned. Kaya kailangan, habang nasa expert group sila, na-agree na nila kung ano yung mahalaga, and they share only what they agreed on. No? And so dito, learning becomes more fun because they're learning with their classmates and they become experts. No? And that could boost their confidence. All right? We can also differentiate the process by using tiered activities. No? That is what I'm going to talk about 2 weeks from now, 2 Saturdays from now, sa part 2 ng ating webinar. So please make sure that you register for that. No? So may tiered activities. You have an activity, you have a topic, may activity ka, but then nag-iiba-iba ang proseso ng pag-aaral, no? Noon. So I won't go ahead of myself. Attend na lang kayo sa webinar 2 weeks from now. And then we can the last thing I'd like to share is varying the length of time a student may take to complete a task, no? Lalo na ngayong pandemic, we cannot be very strict and very rigid, no, with the deadlines. Una, bigyan natin ng appropriate amount of time. But when this but kung may deadline na tayo, what I do is I have a make-up date. If the deadline, for example, is today, no, and if they cannot submit today, they can submit next Saturday. That's my makeup day. And there's no deduction. All right? Sa makeup day. But if you submit beyond the makeup day, then I will I will give you deductions na for late submissions. Okay? So ganun, no? You vary the length of time, lalo pa ngayong pandemic kasi iba't iba ang nararanasan ng ating mga estudyante, which could be very stressful. All right. And then we can also differentiate the product. So I'll rush a bit. Uh, the questions we can ask are, how could they demonstrate what they have learned that capitalizes on their strengths? So hindi lamang ang needs ng ating estudyante ang ating aalamin, pero ganun din yung kanilang strengths. If you can assess their multiple intelligences, that would be very good. And those and you can use the data in the assessment of the multiple intelligences to find out saan ba magaling o malakas ang ating estudyante. Now, for the culminating project, mag-iisip tayo, ano bang culminating project ang pwedeng ibigay na kung saan maia-apply ng mga estudyante yung kanilang natutunan and even extend it, no? So, I, I'd like to rush. Tingnan natin itong Bloom's taxonomy, no? Alam natin na according to the cognitive ability of the child, pwede tayong mag require ng output sa kanila. Students who are advanced, students who have great skills and knowledge, pwede na sila dito sa creating and evaluating. So we can give them a project na ganun. For students who are just on par, no? Okay lang sila. We can ask them to submit a project that taps into their ability to analyze and apply, no? And then for the other students who are in the class who are struggling, no, hindi natin sila bibigyan ng analyzing and applying or even creating and evaluating unless it's a group work, no, so that they can pitch in. But if it's an individual work, kailangan itutugma din natin doon sa readiness ng estudyante. Now, why am I sharing this? Kasi po, maraming klaseng student products ang pwede nating ma-require sa ating estudyante, no? Ang dami. For instance, if you want to know kung ano yung knowledge nila, what they have ano yung na-acquire nilang knowledge, ito, you can let them draw, identify, outline, state, no, or repeat, and then these are the products, no. Kung gusto ninyo ng application, so they will apply, modify, construct, solve, and you can these are suggested student products. Pero hindi lamang po yan, ano? Marami pa kayong maiisip. And those who are already nasa mataas na cognitive ability, kung pwede natin silang ipa-create, ipa-synthesize, no? And so, pwede na silang gumawa ng play, o mag-invent ng kanilang game, or mag-report, no? maggumawa ng research and to report the findings of their research, no? So iba't iba ang products na pwede nating i- i-require sa mga students, but still on the same topic. Umiiba lamang yung complexity and siguro ano ba to? What's the word? Complexity and how complicated the project is. All right. No? Ito suggested ni Conklin and Sorrell. We can provide a menu of tasks. No? Tapos, i-identify natin. For instance, kung mayroong mga may ano po ito may code. For instance, itong mga triangles ay for students who are performing above grade level. So, ang kanilang activity ay more creative. Interview an idiom of your choice and write the transcript. Di ba? Above grade level na yan. Or create 3-story problems for others to solve using figurative language descriptors, no? So complicated na yan, complex, no? Pero if the student is say an English language learner, no? Yung kanila naman itong may star. Perform a 1-minute puppet show that teaches about one type of figurative language, no? Or create a picture dictionary illustrating 7 figurative language terms. See, I'm showing this to drive the point that students can learn the same thing, but they can show what they are learning according to their readiness level in different ways. All right? So that's an example. So the last thing that we need to, I have 1 minute. The last thing we need to differentiate is the learning environment. How does the classroom work or feel? No? Does our classroom, mayroon bang um, mayroon bang routine ang students? May alam ba silang routine that when they need help and teacher cannot help them because she's busy with other students, mayroon ba silang alam na routine na gagawin so that they can get help? Maybe from other classmates, no? So it's a learning environment in which students help each other, no? Helping students understand that some learners need to move around to learn, while others need a quiet place where there are no distractions. No? So understanding some students need to walk about, they need to move. No? Yung iba uupo lang sa isang tabi at mag-aaral, and that's fine. No? Kailangan din ng rushing. We could set out clear guidelines for independent work that matches the individual needs of our students. So when we ask them to work, kailangan may guidelines. Ganun din po sa online learning. We want them to work asynchronously, then kailangan mayroong study guide, no? When we want them to submit a paper, no? Mayroong activity guide at nakalagay na doon sa activity guide yung rubric na gagamitin natin sa pag-check so that they would know what kind of product they will deliver to you, no? Based on what score they want to get. All right. No? So, uh, ah, wala na tayong time for this. Tatanungin ko sana, how is differentiating instruction like altering clothes? Kayo nagpumupunta kayo sa alteration station sa mga so So, ang ang excuse me. So ang pagdi-differentiate po ng instruction natin, ng lesson plans is just like yung pag-alter ng mga damit. Kung masyadong masikip, luluwagan. Kung masyadong maluwag, sisitipan. Kung masyadong mahaba ang laylayan, gugupitan. Kung masyadong maikli, dadagdagan. No? Ganun po ang differentiating instruction. So, just to review, um, in a nutshell, this is what differentiating instruction is. No, we differentiate according to by content, process, product, and even the learning environment, based on our students' readiness, their interests, and their learning profiles. So that's differentiating instruction in a nutshell. Thank you po for listening to me, and we will address your questions um, shortly. Oh, ito pa, isang summary. Okay, so we need to pre-assess the student's readiness level, learning styles, and interests. And then based on that, analyze our current instructional plan and then make modifications. You know, you modify, you adjust, or redesign the lesson plan so that it would suit the different learners in your classroom. Okay? All right. Uh,
Okay, thank you very much, Teacher
oh,
Mighty.
you're welcome.
And thank you everyone for listening very well. I know that you all listened well because I saw um, your questions at chat, no? And so we are now ready to answer your questions. Let me start. Wait lang. I'm gonna check my código. Okay. There was a question about how to implement differentiated instruction in an online setup, but Teacher Mighty was able to answer this already.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me go to the next one. What if we only have 40 minutes or less for online class? How to implement differentiated instruction or DI if our students aren't really participative? Does it have
Okay.
to be done by groups only? This is from Sydney Gopez.
Okay.
Well, teacher, right?
You can do it by groups or you can do it individually. By groups, okay. You only have 45 minutes. Pwede bang asynchronous? That's what I do. May asynchronous session sila. I divide them into groups and asynchronously they meet. Maybe during the weekend or kung kailan man sila lahat free. Or sometimes sa MA class ko, I can say I'm not going to meet you tomorrow night, but I want you to use that time, 3 hours yon. I want you to use that time to form your groups and to go over the material and to discuss. No? And then the next time we meet, doon na papasok yung next half of kunyari, think, pair, and share. So nag-think, pair, and share na sila asynchronously. Pagpasok ng asynchronous, share na. So you need to cut the activity in chunks so that mas magsusut doon sa online learning schedules.
Yes, and siguro i-add ko na rin Teacher Mites, no?
Yes.
Pwede din i-break out nyo na lang sila sa breakout rooms kunyari, no? Para kahit naka-synchronous, at least yung mga hindi masyadong participative kapag ka small group, I think mas magiging comfortable sila to be able to share, or it would be easier for you also to provide the support that they need kapag ka konti lang sila, no? So kahit 40 ang estudyante, which is not ideal of course in an online setup, yung students mo in a class, pero kung breakout room sila, then probably assign peer or classmates who are medyo mataas na yung level ng understanding in a particular topic, doon sa mga ibang breakout rooms para yung sa'yo na lang teacher, yung sa mga breakout rooms na lang where you find students who are not really performing well or participating well.
Oo.
Diba?
And siguro ito, kailangan sa isip din natin, when we form those groups, kailangan yung group members, mayroon silang responsibilidad. Hindi pwede, form your groups, tapos ang kumikilos
Bahala na
lang ay yung mga iilan, dadawa o iisa na magaling. Tapos the others, sitting pretty, nakiki-hitchhike sa trabaho ng magagaling. Diba? No, you give them assignments. Okay, ngayon, ikaw ang magiging leader, ikaw ang mag-facilitate ng discussion, ikaw naman ang secretary, and then mamaya, pag nag-reporting na ang grupo, ikaw naman.
Correct.
So everybody now will pay attention and will participate because they have roles
That's right.
in the group.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Next question, Teacher Mike. In Dale's cone of experience, the more senses are involved, the better the learning. Can we enhance optimum learning through DI? From Junar Duterte.
Using ano yun, multiple, yung multisensory.
Yeah, okay.
Oo, pwede po. Actually, ano nga yan yan ay pumapasok doon sa differentiating the process of learning, or even differentiating the acquisition of content. Kasi there are students who learn ng multisensorily, no? So if you know that the student needs kailangan nakikita niya, natatouch niya, naririnig niya, so you can create activities that would address the needs of that learner. Pwede pong gamitin yun.
All right. So, a little parang related to that, Teacher Mites, is the next question. Please suggest plausible strategies to improve intrinsic motivation among students. Although you were able to mention that in your talk.
Oo, mahalaga kasi talaga using yung principle ng differentiated instruction. Mahalaga talaga na natatap natin yung interests nila, no? Kasi pag interesado ay talagang yung intrinsic motivation nandiyan na. Hindi mo na sila pipilitin, hindi mo na sila i-threaten. No need for the punitive approaches, no? Oo, strategies. May mga estudyante na pag alam nila, I remember, I substituted in a class because the teacher was absent. And ang activity ng teacher was nag-aaral sila ng sa Filipino. Tapos yung output nila, gagawa sila ng tula. Di ba? Yung pinag-aralan nila, kunyari, kung anumang figure of speech, gagawa sila ng tula. Alam niyo ba, when I gave the assignment, ay naku, nagpalakpakan pa yung mga estudyante. Yay! Ganyan. Or some students naman, okay lang sa kanila susulat ng paragraph as long as you will allow them to decorate their paper. So yung ibang estudyante, pagkatapos nilang sumulat ng kanilang essay, ayan na, nakalabas na yung mga colored pencils and pens nila at nagdo-drawing, and they proudly submit their papers. They're excited to do that. So napakahalaga na tinatap talaga natin, hindi lamang yung interest, no? Siguro related to that, yung value ng kanilang pag-aaralan. Kailangan kasi naiintindihan ng mga estudyante, ano ba ang halaga nitong pinag-aaralan ko? Saan ko ba magagamit ito? Kasi hanggat hindi nila naiintindihan kung saan gagamitin yan sa ordinaryong buhay nila, they will not be interested, no? example, yung mga teachers diyan ng high school, saan ba ginagamit ang polynomials? Could you tell me, ano ba ang practical application ng polynomials? I like solving polynomials, lalo na pag tama yung sagot ko. Pero at the back of my mind, ang katanungan, saan ko ba gagamitin ito pagkatapos ng aking high school o ng aking kolehiyo? No? How do I use it? No? So, students become more interested to learn things when they understand the value or the use of whatever it is they're learning. Okay.
That's right. Thank you, Miles. Actually, i-add ko lang din nga sana na I saw an article that said that yung mga difficult na mga topics in math, ang main talaga na purpose daw niyan is parang to practice the brain for even for higher pa. No? So, minsan ang naiisip ko lang, especially for children with disabilities, parang hindi pa nga kami nag-take off doon sa mga very simple ones. Tapos here we are now trying to practice the more complicated ones. So baka hindi pagiging practical yun for them.
Yeah.
Kaya ang pasok siguro ng differentiated instruction dyan is to make sure na kung yun lang at yun ang purpose, then give them another activity which would actually be for that purpose pero para sa level nila or para doon sa capability ng kanilang minds kasama na ako doon. Kasi okay. So that question, yes, Mike.
May sasagot lang ako, may isi-share lang ako. There was a time na binisita kami school, no? And they had children with special needs. Ang pinag-aaralan nila sa math ay Roman numerals. While everyone is converting, kunyari, 3,872, no? Iro-Roman numeral nila yon. I-expect mo ba ang isang student with intellectual disability to be able to do that? No, di ba? But because he has to learn the Roman numerals, ang nakakatuwa, tinuro yung Roman numerals na para matuto siyang magbasa ng kanyang relo. Kasi binilan siya ng lolo niya ng relo na yung numbers ay naka-Roman numerals.
No? Naglipa na ang mga relo na nagsasalita na nga eh.
Oo, pero yung sinasabi ko, 10 years ago yun.
Talaga? Okay, so wala pa nga. Baka relevant nga naman yun nung time na yun. Kailangan mong magbasa. Okay. So that, correct yun talaga. So, Teacher Mike, that question was from Miss Din Chu. Okay, the next question is from Febi Stabile Barina, and she's asking, considering that we have to provide immediate feedback on students' outputs, what is the ideal number or class number in the secondary or tertiary level if we try to implement DI?
Ay, ako. As if I can mandate the number of students, no.
Pero ideally,
there are some schools that function well kahit umaabot ang classes that function well kahit umaabot ng 50 ang mga estudyante, no. Basta may strategy ang mga teachers na kunyari 50 sila, hihingi ka ba naman ng individual, ikaw na lang ang teacher, no? Ilang sections ang hawak mo, kunyari sa science, bawat section may 50, hihingi ka ba ng individual project para pagkatapos ng school year ay mayroon kang i-check na 200 science projects, ba?
That's right.
Iisipin mo, paano ko ba sila matutulungan na makapag-produce ng output na they can work together collaboratively, but at the same time, ako naman ay hindi ngarag, ano? At hindi mag-nervous breakdown checking all of these things. Oo, so
That's right.
aayusin, flexible grouping would be great. For instance, pwede nyo silang i-group according to interest, no? Depende sa project, no? According to interest. You can group them according to ability. So mayroong sometimes homogeneous groups, sometimes hetero, no? Na may halo, na may magagaling, may above grade level performance, on grade level, and those who are functioning below grade level, no? So ganon. Tayong mga guro, hahanap talaga tayo ng ng paraan na makakapagtulungan yung mga estudyante. Itong SEM lang na to, may tinuruan kaming team teaching kami. We taught several sections. May mga projects kaming hiningi for a total of mga almost 90 students. No? So talagang group work yan. No? Or kung gusto mo ng individual, something simple like maybe a reflection paper, no? Yung hindi ka masyadong ngarag. But always you must have a rubric for scoring the project. I hope
Correct.
that helps.
Yeah. Thank you, Teacher Mites.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yung next natin na mga questions ay galing sa ating alumni.
Ah,
I see the names of Miss Kat Baron. Kat, are you there? And Anton Relo. Mga ano to, mga ano natin, mga alumni natin to mga to. And their questions are both on assessment. No? Ang question, what are the best practices to assess the mentioned DI activities? And sabi naman ni Anton, while it may be the most intuitive and easiest method, a lot of research shows it can be damaging in terms of the messages it sends regarding the importance of learning, especially given the heavy testing culture prevalent today. So how can we best assess students learning siguro ito without diagnostic tests?
ah, assessing student learning. Are you saying yung first part, finding out yung learning level nila? Yun ba yun? Hindi ko pa
I
nakukuha yun.
think what Kat means is ano yung best practices or what are the best assessment methods to use, no, considering the differentiated activities that you presented.
Oo. Then, kung differentiated yung activity, let's say you have an activity for that's complex, no, for the other students who can handle complex work, then that would have its own rubric, no. Yung iba pang mga activities, they would have their own rubrics. But then, even if, let's say, for for this lesson ay magandang maganda yung natutunan nila, yung product nila, but this one is already more complicated, yung content ay mas advanced, hindi mo pwedeng bigyan ng 90 silang pareho at gagraduate silang pareho na na valedictorian ng class, no? Hindi pwede yon. So even the grading has to um, be differentiated also. Oo. Um, pag yung mga assessment na ng mga estudyante, ang alam ko, if you have students with disabilities in a regular class, in the United States, they do this. Sa IEP ng estudyante, nakalagay na doon kung anong mga standardized assessments ang pwedeng salihan ng bata at alin ang hindi, no? So we do not force students to take an assessment test na hindi naman talaga niya kaya, no? But at the same time, kung kaya ng estudyante kahit na may disability siya, hindi naman natin siya binabar from taking the assessment. So That's how
Okay,
some schools or
do it.
educational systems do it.
Do it. Okay. I think ang kay Anton naman, yung question niya is more on based on research right now, parang mas hindi yata maganda ang mga testing. Yung ginagawa natin na talagang parang standardized test. Not the standardized testing na for diagnostics alone. I think yung sinasabi niya yung mga paper pencil testing, yung
Oo.
mga ganun na ginagawa natin na kind of evaluation. So to answer you both, no, I just want to share na siguro ang maganda is that you have predetermined already kung yung estudyante ba na yon ay kakayanin ba niya ang the kind of test that you give that you would normally give to your other
Yeah.
students. Ngayon, pag hindi, from the start, then probably what you can do is to make sure that even the activities that you give, no, yung mga differentiated activities nyo, parang may embedded na sila na assessment procedure. Like for example, if they're able to do that consistently, yung ginagawa natin sa IEP guys, di ba? Pag sinasabi natin na the terminal objective is this, and then after this many tries, and then 80% of that kaya na niya, then he gets or she gets this grade. No?
Yes.
So parang ganon yung isang pwede natin gawin. We can even also parang make sure, i-monitor lang natin kung ano yung mga activities na differentiated for a particular student, and then doon din tayo gagawa ng rubrics natin. So depende sa pag-perform niya sa particular differentiated activity na yun, doon na rin natin siya i-grade. No? So that way, hindi niya kailangan hindi niya kailangan mag-participate sa parehong tests na ginagamit din ng mga iba, kasi then that will defeat the purpose. No, nag-differentiate na tayo kasi alam natin na hindi niya kaya or iba yung way niya ng mag-learn, and yet ang ending nilang lahat pare-pareho silang tinesting, so medyo unfair yun. So
Yeah.
probably pwede rin individualize din, even pati yung pag-assess natin ng performance nila in a particular activity.
Oo.
All right. Yes, Mike.
Mayroon din akong gustong i-share. Kunyari, magbibigay tayo ng at may mga, let's say, yung, di ba sometimes may mga essay questions tayo na binibigay, no? Mga open-ended questions. There are some students who know, who understand the topic, they can answer that, pero hindi nila alam kung paano magsimula ng ng sagot sa open-ended question. So, after giving the open-ended question, maaari kang magbigay muna. Ano ba yung tawag doon? I'm not from, I forgot the term. Yung pangsimula, yung pang-start ng paragraph.
Okay. Ano nga tawag?
Sentence
Introductory.
prompts.
Yun.
Sentence
So,
prompts.
yun. Tapos, so pag meron tayong prompt na ganyan, i-complete na niya at maisusulat na niya. No? There are students na ganun. No? They know the answer, but
They don't know how to start.
how to write it, it's difficult. So maganda kung may template ka na binibigay or
May
something.
guide.
And then there are still other students naman na maaaring hindi makasulat ng paragraph. Baka sa kanila ay, kunyari, in 2 to 3 sentences. Ma-explain lang. Or
So
yung
minsan
iba,
yung length, no?
Or minsan yung iba, pag talagang according to the ability, ay i-identify lang nila. So put a check or color. But they're learning the same thing, different levels.
Okay. Alam mo, Miles, nakakatuwa kasi by saying that you were able to answer the question of rice flopino on how on giving examples of a differentiated process between advanced learners and struggling learners. So I think that's one way yung sinabi ni Teacher Mikey bago lang. All right. So yung next question, moving on, we have a question from Josephine Rosario Evangelista and Junice Nepomuceno. Si Junice! Junice
hi,
is our
And
alumni.
hi, ma'am.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so the question is, can we apply BI in modular distance learning? How can BI be applied in provinces which are using modular TV or radio-based instructions only? What adjustments can teachers and parents make?
wow, no? So, yung sa radio, wala kasi akong experience and I don't even know how that is done. No? Pero siguro, kung kung tayo yung teacher ng estudyante at may ganito ang pagkakaintindi ko ha, may ibang lesson na binibigay through the radio, siguro yung activity afterwards ay i-differentiate mo yun. No? I-differentiate mo yung activity na gagamitin ng mga estudyante for them to process whatever it is that they have learned through the radio. No,
Yeah.
there are some students who o kunyari by radio, paano kung may hearing impairment yung estudyante and the means is through the radio, edi kailangan kukuha ka ng sign language interpreter, no? Para nakaka-follow siya. Oo, nakaka-follow na yung auditory information ay nakikita niya visually, no?
Alright.
Hindi ko alam if pwede bang humingi ng transcript
Baka meron. Oo,
from,
baka
from the radio classes.
yung the one who provides the ano, no?
Oo,
Baka pwedeng
pasensya
din.
na, hindi ko masyadong alam yung radio. Although alam ko that it's happening.
So alam ko rin, parang parallel din naman siya dun sa modules na binibigay. So probably what you can do, ma'am, and Janice, is, no, pwede yung beforehand, yung mga modules na yon, meron na kayong provision agad doon for differentiation. Diba? Like for example, slash out nyo na the ones that you know hindi pwede sa student na yon, or magkakaroon ng difficulty yung student na yun sa particular lesson na yon. Maybe provide na kaagad tayo ng differentiated na na activities for them.
Yeah.
So, yun.
So
Kasi
nasa
syempre,
planning yun.
yeah, nasa planning. That's right. Okay, thank you. So the next one is from Anton again. Ang question niya, how can we address things if certain students may feel discouraged if they are aware that they would consider at the most they would consider at the more basic or lower end of the spectrum.
Teka muna. Kaya nga, pag nag-grouping tayo, hindi laging homogeneous na, yung magagaling, dyan.
Oh, that's right.
Yung on grade level dito at itong mga below grade level functioning dito. Hindi pwedeng laging ganun kasi ma-stereotype na sila.
Correct.
And like I said, maaaring sa subjects na ito, ikaw ay above grade level ang performance mo. Pero dito sa subject na to ay medyo mababa ka, hindi ibig sabihin na mahina kang estudyante. I suppose pag nag-groupings tayo, there should never be any mention of how or why we are grouping them if they are grouped according to ability. No? Okay lang kung sabi, yung magagaling, yung mahilig sa music, ito yung grupo nyo. O yung mahilig sa pagsusulat, itong grupo ninyo. Pero we never say, yung mahilig, mahina sa math, dito yung mga star profile, doon kayo.
That's right. Kasi it goes against inclusion as well, no? Kasi, di ba, syempre, pag naka-label na sila and all, without even telling them that they have disabilities or special needs, by doing that, we are already excluding them. Yes. So, tama si Teacher Mike. Sa pinakamaganda siguro, alamin na natin beforehand no, ano yung mga interest nila. And this goes true for all teachers kasi hindi naman isang teacher lang, di ba? Iba't ibang subject areas yan. So, minsan, nagkakaroon ng ganyan kasi in a particular subject, pare-parehong, kilala ng teacher lahat ng students niya. So, naturally, yung parang nagiging nature na niya na nadi-divide niya into ability groups, no, which is not parang effective and inclusive all the time. So, siguro yun ang pinakamaganda or yung sinabi, minention kanina ni Teacher Mikey, yung different roles. So for a particular task, iba't ibang roles. Ako ang taga-provide ng music kasi BTS Army ako. Ako taga-provide ng ganyan kasi magaling ako magsulat. ako, di ba? So, pwede mo siyang ipaghalo-halo that way and then come up still with a task that's a group task that has been done by everybody and natap mo pa ang lahat ng interest and lahat ng potential ng mga estudyante mo.
Oo. At
Alright?
idadagdag pala ako,
Yes.
pag heterogeneous yung grouping, ano, so you have students who are advanced, students who are, on grade level, and students who are medyo need help. Yung student na advanced, pag grouping mo, hindi sila lagi ang leader.
Yeah. That's
Kasi nagkakaroon ng idea na siya, nasa grupo namin siya o siya na leader. Pwede na ang maging facilitator ng discussion ay someone who is functioning on grade level. No?
That's right.
Tapos yung magaling, kasi sa mga gifted, most likely sila laging pinipili ng teacher. No, the gifted student has to learn to be a follower also, to follow the facilitator, no? So hindi yung mga roles nila ay hindi permanente. No, kailangan na And then if you have students who are medyo delayed, no, they have their contributions have to be respected and included, no. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-group work tapos pag sumagot yung medyo delayed, tititigan mo ng masama tapos kaya mo na nga siya. Hindi pwede ganon.
That's right.
No? So hahanapan mo ng pwesto na ipapasok yung contribution ng estudyante na needs help. No?
In fact, pwedeng pwedeng nga might i-explore. Ako tinatry kong explore lagi yon sa mga practicumers ko, sinasabi ko sa kanila yan. Why don't you try to ask the help na maging leader ang mga malilikot? Minsan kasi naglilikot lang yung mga yan kasi wala naman sa responsibilidad because they are, they're always tagged as malikot yan wag mo nang bigyan ng ano yan. No, but for all you know, naghihintay lang sila ng responsibility for them to really show what they've got, no?
Yeah.
So depende of course sa teacher. I'm not saying that you should do it all the time. You have to study the student as well. Baka kailangan mo rin ng medyo medyo ladderized, no? Paunti-unti mo siyang bigyan ng responsibility. Baka naman biglang naging class president na siya, nako isang magulong class ang magkakaroon kayo kapag hindi siya na-orient or hindi pa konti-konti ang pagbigay ng responsibility.
And when you give the assignment, kunyari magulo siya sa classroom, when you give him the assignment, you give it to him with respect. No? Hindi ikaw magulo ka, o dito ka nga, ikaw nga ang leader para wag kang magulo dyan. Wag ka.
Hindi, syempre.
No? Kailangan may respeto. Ngayon, ikaw ang mag-lead, ha?
Yes.
Yan.
Hindi paintindi sa kanya yung responsibility na yan. That's
Oo,
right.
hindi yung merong pasarcastic.
Okay. Mites, yung oras natin, kakainin na ang lunchtime at magagalit na sa atin tong mga to. So, we're on to our last two questions. Sorry, na-excite ako, nakita kami estudyante ko dati na mga namamayagpag na teachers na. Mamaya ko kayo ihahay. Okay. So next question, we will keep this brief, no? 2 questions na lang. How can we increase prior knowledge or tapping prior knowledge? From Bernadette Reyes.
Paano nyo malalaman yung prior knowledge? Okay. Alam niyo ba, ito isang strategy. Alam niyo ba yung KWL na graphic organizer? Ano yan eh? KWL stands for, ano yan? Meron kang table, no, sa sheet of paper. The first column is K. What do I know? No? W. What do I want to know? And the third column is what did I learn? No? So, yung K doon sa KWL is very important. Bago pa magkaroon ng activity or reading, group discussion, isusulat na ng mga estudyante kung ano ang nalalaman nila tungkol sa topic. Doon ninyo malalaman kung ano na yung readiness level nila. Doon nyo rin malalaman na maraming alam yung estudyante, pero maaaring meron ding mga ilang nalalaman siya na misconception. No? So to assess the readiness of the students, you can use yan yung KWL
Approach.
graphic organizer. Or at the beginning of the school year, mayroon ka ng parang survey questionnaire, no? Na or maybe talk to the previous teacher. Kunyari math teacher ka ngayon ng grade 4 ngayon. Eh di syempre galing sa grade 3 itong si Juana. O tatanungin na yung teacher ni Juana, kamusta si Juana noon? Ano ba yung grade niya? You know, there are school records that you can look at. Ano yung grade niya sa math last year? You can talk to the student. Ano ba ang naging problema ni Juana? Bakit ganyan? Or maybe you can even talk to the student na ano ang, you can ask him, sa math, saan ka nahihirapan sa math? You know, just find out ano ang mahirap sa math at bakit ka nahihirapan sa ganun. Just to get an idea of the readiness and how you can help the student. Baka malaman-laman mo na ang sagot pala niya, ma'am, napakabilis po na magturo ni teacher, hindi ko pa nga naiintindihan, nandito na kami. O, di ibig sabihin, with that student, you need to go just a little bit slower and make sure na meron kang explicit modeling dahil hirap siya pag masyadong mabilis yung pace ng learning. Yun.
All right.
So
Thank you for that. All right. Last question from Dr. Kent Damboa. How about a service learning approach?
Yes.
Yun lang yung tanong niya.
Service. Ano po, what do you mean by service learning approach?
Oo, actually gusto ko rin tanongin siya. Sir Kent,
would you like to unmute yourself and maybe explain it ng maikli and clearly so we can answer your question?
Hello, good afternoon po.
Hello po.
Magandang hapon.
Hi, ma'am. Can you civic engagement? Can you this service approach civic engagement in differentiated instruction?
Civic engagement ng mga students? Ganun po ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Oo. Ay, maganda nga po yun na mayroon silang civic engagements and then aalamin nyo din saan ba ang hilig ng mga, ano ba ang interest ng mga estudyanteng ito. Am I thinking ang mga students ninyo ay college students na or high school? So maybe senior high school. So maganda alamin ninyo ano ba yung mga advokasya ng mga estudyanteng ito, no? And then you can maybe prepare service activities that are more in line with their advocacies. So for instance, may mga estudyante po kunyari na mahilig talagang magturo o baka yung service nila ay magtuturo, let's say mayroong alternative learning system class dito na nagsaserve sa mga street children o baka pwede yung mga estudyante doon. Or yung mga mahilig namang magluto, baka pwede sila doon sa soup kitchen. Nadi-differentiate po.
Actually po, idadagdag ko lang, Teacher Mighty, gaya po ng ginawa namin sa SPED area, pero sa tertiary level po ito, ang aming, nag-adopt po kami ng isang NSTP class, no? Tapos, ginawan po namin siya ng SPED flavor or yung SPED orientation. So, ang kanila pong community engagement project ay on SPED. Parang, since hindi sila lahat taga-SPED, ang ginawa nila ay parang, nagkaroon sila ng parang awareness and parang very basic knowledge-based lang po na project para doon sa mga parents of children with disabilities in different communities. So, pwede mo siyang ipasok siguro doon, no? Ayun. Okay, so yung iba po na ninyong mga questions, may mga nag-comment din po, tumulong po, nag-contribute po doon sa sagot, no, by way of commenting doon po sa ating chat box. So you might want to check the chat box also for that. Okay? So that ends our question and answer. Thank you very much, Teacher Mikey, for patiently answering the questions. And thank you also for those who asked the questions. Maraming salamat po at marami pong opportunities para maliwanagan tayong lahat through your questions. There is one more question though, Teacher Mikes. Are you going to share your slides with them? Pwede daw ba silang magkaroon ng copy ng slides?
Slides.
Baka naka-intellectual property.
Yes, ang masishare po namin sa inyo ay yung recording nitong anong to.
Yes po. Ng webinar na to.
Oo.
By way of FB. I think i-share siya sa FB, right? Teachers Christine and CJ. I-share ito. So, pwede niyo po siyang balikan doon.
I think sa Facebook account ng UP College of Education.
I-share po
tayo, Christine?
Yes po. Yata.
Yes po, T.
Okay.
So, yun po. Pwede niyo po balikan doon.
So, abangan niyo po because medyo mahaba po itong ating webinar. It will take some time para ma-convert yung recording, and then we will post it there. If you listen, then you know what technique that I use when I attend webinars at kailangan ko ng slide. Nagsi-screenshot po ako. That way, tapos tinatago ko sa folder. That way, mayroon akong mababalikan na.
Of course, for your own consumption.
I don't know if you looked at the chat box, right on top, at the very top of the chat box po, balikan ninyo, nandyan na po yung mga reference materials with the links. I-click nyo lang po so you can access them.
Yeah.
And you can get the materials. Yan din po ang ginamit ko. So mas maganda pa nga kung mababasa ninyo.
Yeah, that's right.
Dahil straight from Conklin and Sorel, from Hecox and from Tomlinson.
Teacher Christine, would you like to say something?
Yes.
Ay, Teacher Mighty, yung mga kanina pong bagong attend po pala, hindi po mag-view nila yung message prior to their attendance. Kumbaga yung references po hindi po nila makikita. Baka pwede pong i-post na lang natin.
I-post lang ulit. I-post ulit ni Teacher Mike. Alright, since nandiyan ka na rin, Teacher Christine, would you like to give some reminders before I end the webinar?
Ko ngayon.
Ayan, sige po. Ayan, reminder lang po ulit pala na pwede pong pakisagot po ang ating feedback form para sa webinar na ito. Nilagay ko po ang link sa ating chat box. Pero hindi daw po nag-work. Sige po, titignan na lang po ulit namin.
Please don't forget to fill that out because you can only get your e-certificates if you have filled out the evaluation form. Okay?
Yes po, pakitry daw po na mag-sign in para daw po masagutan yung form. Hindi po maka-sign in. Nag-work daw po sa iba. Try nyo po mag-sign in po sa email po. Para po
kailangan.
Sorry Christine, hindi ko naintindihan. Hindi ko po naintindihan kasi Shopee.
Yes, Teach, okay lang po. Ayan, okay na po, Teach. Bali po, nagkaka-problem lang po, hindi daw po ma-access ng iba yung evaluation form. Although sa iba po nag-work naman daw.
Yung iba naman walang questions daw?
No question.
Anyway,
Ayan si
we will
Ben.
we
Ganun.
will try to we will try to fix that, ano?
Yes po.
So you can access them.
Ayan, sige
Okay.
po. Thank you po.
So,
Magsisend na lang po
Sige
kami
po.
sa email ulit ng
Ah,
evaluation.
all
Thank you
right.
po.
Okay, so that ends our webinar. I'm so thankful. We are so thankful for you being here today. You spent your whole Saturday morning with us, and we are so grateful for your presence, lalo na po at napaka-participative ninyo. I hope po lahat po tayo nagkaroon ng magagandang takeaway from today. Most especially po, i-share ko rin no, yung konting takeaway ko para lang din na-recap natin yung sinabi ni Teacher Mighty. So I think in order for us to be able to differentiate, first we really have to get to know our learners, no, na nandoon sa mga classrooms natin or whoever it is na tinuturuan natin. And then in the spirit of SPED and inclusion, ang gusto namin i-share siguro is that we should innovate kung anong meron tayo, lahat ng strategies na alam natin, lahat ng curriculum, everything that we already have, no, baka kailangan lang po ng updating. So innovate. And then create. Kasi yes po, kasi po create kasi marami pong alam ko po marami tayong ideas. Etong pandemic na to kung meron man tayong takeaway, I think ang isa doon is marami tayong nag-reflect, no? Marami tayong naisip na mga bagay-bagay na pwedeng i-apply and kung paano pa ba natin matutulungan yung mga learners natin. So maybe from there we can create no strategies, materials, everything. And then, after everything, we should initiate. Kasi baka naman hanggang plano lang tayo, tapos wala naman tayong ginagawa dun sa mga plano natin. So I think it's high time that we really start working. So thank you very much everyone for coming today. Thank you, Teacher Mighty. Marami po kaming
you're
natutunan
most
sa iyo.
welcome.
Don't forget po that there's
You're
a part
welcome.
2 when on June, ay July na bala, July 24, tama ba
Yes
ako?
po, Teach July
Oo,
24.
abangan na lang po ang announcement and sana po doon po sa mga ibang kakilala ninyo na nag-signify, na nag-register po, next time sana talagang pumasok po sila kasi alam nyo po maaga naming kinlose yung registration thinking po na all 300 would come, no? So sayang naman po yung ibang slots doon sa mga yung ibang mga hindi pumunta kasi there were so many who messaged us telling us that we really want to attend and yet hindi po sila nabigyan ng slots kasi may mga maaga
Opo.
pong
That's right.
register. So yon. Okay? And then of course pinapa-thankyuhan ko po lahat po ng mga participants natin from all over the country and the world. Meron po kaming nakitang Jeddah yata na attendees natin. Yung mga alumni po ng SPED at ng College of Education who are here and all other students, pati yung current students namin na nandito ngayon, yung mga nag-facilitate at nag-organize, nagtumulong po sa amin to make this webinar possible. And of course po kay Teacher Mighty for spending so much time preparing for this and doing the talk, lalo na nagtatapos yan ng dissertation niya, ayaw sanang magpa-istorbo niyan, pero she took one for the SPED area. So thank you so much, Teacher Mighty. On behalf of all the professors, faculty of the Special Education area of the College of Education, kasama na rin po ang dean namin at ang aming DCI chair who I saw here kanina, nandito si Teacher Wina kanina. Thank you so much for helping us and thank you for attending. Have a very great and pleasant Saturday, the rest of the Saturday and the weekend. See you again soon. Thank you.